I never believed in hell. Not really. I thought it was a metaphor, something people use to scare others into obedience. But what I saw, what I lived, changed everything. What if I told you I was taken to hell, and I saw the truth no one dares to speak about? Stay until the end, because what I'm about to share could save your soul. Have you ever looked at someone and thought they had the perfect life, only to find out later that everything was a carefully crafted illusion? What if I told you that even the most beautiful bride, dressed in white, standing at the altar with tears in her eyes, could be hiding a secret so dark it follows her into eternity? This isn't just a story. It's a warning, a testimony from hell itself. She looked like the picture of innocence. Her wedding photos were flawless, the kind that get thousands of likes on social media. Smiling beside a man who truly loved her, she wore purity like a costume. But behind that white dress was a heart filled with deceit. She had lived two lives, one in the open, kind, soft-spoken, charitable, and one in the shadows, filled with lies, manipulation, and a trail of secret affairs she thought would never surface. On Earth, no one suspected a thing. Her husband worshipped the ground she walked on. Friends envied her. Family admired her. But the truth was rotting her soul from the inside out. And when her life suddenly ended, not with a warning, but like a door slamming shut in the middle of the night, she found herself standing at the gates of hell, still wearing her wedding gown. Only now it was stained, ripped, burning without flame. She told me, yes, told me, as I stood there, frozen in a place no soul ever wants to see, that she had built her marriage on lies, that she had used love like a weapon, that she had smiled at church, then sinned in silence. And in hell, there are no secrets. Everything hidden is exposed, not with words, but with pain. She wasn't just remembering her betrayals. She was reliving them, moment by moment, feeling the sorrow of the man she deceived, the trust she shattered, the vows she mocked. Have you ever lied to someone you love? Or held back the full truth because it was easier, or because you thought you had time to fix it later? Stay with me until the end, because what you're going to discover now may surprise you. Hell isn't just fire and screams. Sometimes it's the echo of your own choices, the ones you thought didn't matter. In that place, she cried out for forgiveness, not from God. She had rejected that too many times, but from a man she had hurt, the life she had ruined. Over and over, she whispered, I didn't mean for it to end like this. But hell doesn't care about your intentions, only your actions. And here's the terrifying part, she wasn't alone. Because just a few steps away, I saw someone else. Another story. Another soul drowning in their own past. But I'll tell you about that in just a moment. Because as I stood there, paralyzed by the weight of what I was witnessing, I felt something strange. Not fear, not at that moment, but heartbreak. A deep, suffocating sorrow. These weren't strangers. These were people who had laughed like us, loved like us, failed like us. And suddenly, I couldn't help but wonder how many people walking around us right now are hiding wounds that will echo into eternity. That's why I need to ask you something. If any part of this story is stirring something in your heart, if it made you remember someone or face something inside yourself, leave a comment below. Not for the algorithm, not even for me, but because your words might touch someone else who's quietly struggling with the same thing. You never know who's reading. You never know who's holding on by a thread. And if this kind of message speaks to your soul, if it feels like something you were meant to hear, then I invite you to like this video so more people can find it. It's not just a number. It's a way for this message to keep spreading, reaching others before it's too late. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That one small action tells me you want to walk this journey with us, to keep hearing these stories, these warnings, these truths that so often go unheard. Because this isn't just content. It's a calling, and your presence here is what gives it life. Now, where were we? Just a few steps from the woman in white. I saw a man, tall, stiff, wearing what looked like a tailored suit. But it wasn't the suit of a dignified man anymore. It was scorched beyond repair, charred in places like it had been dragged through fire. The once smooth fabric clung to his skin like it had melted there. Torn threads dangled like burn vines. His shoes, once polished perfection, were now cracked, twisted, and half-fused to the ground beneath him, a floor made of smoldering ash and broken glass. His face was tired, hollow, but what disturbed me the most was the pride still etched in his expression. He wasn't screaming like the others around him. He stood perfectly still, isolated, silent, but the silence screamed louder than anything I'd ever heard. It had weight, a density, like the very air around him refused to move, like time had abandoned him. Then I heard it. "Daddy, please see me. Daddy, please hold me." Children's voices, innocent, aching, echoing like wind through empty halls. They came from every direction, no form, no source, just a sound, surrounding him, haunting him. They circled him like invisible spirits. You could feel their pain, not of being punished, but of being forgotten. The man reached out, slowly, hands trembling, but he couldn't touch anything, not even the echoes. His fingers sliced through air as if trying to grasp a memory. They slipped away like smoke, like time, like chances never taken. That's when it hit me. This man had been a provider, a successful businessman. On Earth, he was respected, feared. He gave his wife a mansion with marble floors, gave his children the latest toys, the best schools, private jets for vacations, everything they could ever need, except himself. He was never truly there. His love was measured in transactions, his affection outsourced, while his hands signed deals. His kids waited by doors that never opened, while he climbed the ladder of power. They wrote cards that were never read, painted pictures he never saw. He had exchanged love for logic, presence for performance. His wealth was applause, but his home echoed in silence. And in hell, that silence had become his cell. I saw chains, not around his wrist, but wrapped around his soul, guilt made manifest. Every time he ignored a plea for attention, every time he said, "Not now, I'm busy," every time he replaced a hug with a gift, all of it played in an endless loop. The voices weren't demons. They were memories, eternal reminders of the warmth he refused to give, and he wasn't allowed to forget. He stood there, locked in his own mind, tormented not by flames, but by the love he withheld. Luke 16, verse 24 whispered through my thoughts like a ghost. "Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame." But for this man, there was no Lazarus, no comfort, only the fire of emotional torment, a flame that didn't burn skin but memory. And somehow, that was worse. The book of Proverbs says, "There's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death." Proverbs 14, verse 12. This man had walked that path, paved with gold, lined with achievement, straight into eternal separation. He had succeeded in everything, except what mattered most. And now, hell had stripped away all illusions, left with the truth he ignored while chasing applause. Love isn't measured in money. It's measured in moments, in presence, in compassion. His torment wasn't loud, but it was unbearable. And still, the voices of his children continued to echo, not in rage, not in anger, just longing. And longing, when it has no end, becomes agony. That's the kind of pain that doesn't leave you. Not after death, not after fire, not after eternity begins. Because in that place, regret is forever. And just when I thought I couldn't take any more, when my soul felt stretched beyond the limits of fear and sorrow, I turned and saw her. She was sitting on the scorched ground, knees clutched to her chest, surrounded by hundreds of mirrors. They floated in the air like ghostly fragments, some cracked like spiderwebs of regret, others shattered completely, their jagged edges catching the faint red glow of hell like broken teeth. And in every single one of them, her face stared back, but not the face I saw in front of me now. No, the reflection showed a younger version of her, flawless, filtered, lit perfectly by imaginary ring lights. In one, she was pouting seductively. In another, she smiled like everything was perfect. Every angle was deliberate. Every gaze was manufactured. She was beautiful, even here in hell, but it was a hollow beauty. Her eyes darted between the mirrors like prey trapped in a room full of predators. Her chest rose and fell in panic. Her hands trembled as she tried to shield herself from the images. But there were too many. They were everywhere. There was no peace in her expression. Only fear. Only emptiness. Then I remembered her. She had been someone, a social media star, influencer, idolized by millions. Her name trended weekly. Her face launched brands. Her posts were filled with designer clothes, exotic destinations, perfect skin, perfect life. But it was all a carefully crafted illusion. Behind every photo was a storm of insecurity. Behind every smile, a quiet cry for validation. She didn't just use filters, she lived in one. Her self-worth wasn't built on truth, but on numbers, views, hearts, comments. She measured love in followers, measured value in attention. She fed on digital applause until it became her only source of identity. And now, the same image she once worshipped had become her curse. The mirrors whispered lies. Or were they truths she had tried to silence? You're not enough. You're forgotten. You were never real. She screamed at them, hit them with bloodied fists, begged them to shut up, but they didn't stop, because they weren't just mirrors. They were judges. Each reflection was a reminder of the soul she had lost chasing approval. In life, she built a temple to herself, a cathedral of curves and captions. Her face became her God, her body her gospel. She didn't need the approval of heaven. She had millions of hearts in her comments. But here in hell, there were no followers, no filters, no brand deals, no makeup tutorials, no lighting tricks. Just her face to face with the one thing she had always avoided, the truth. Ecclesiastes 1 verse 2 echoed in my spirit like a warning too late. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. She had lived in pursuit of mirrors, and now she was imprisoned by them, chained not by iron but by image. Matthew 16 verse 26 was etched into the walls of his hellish chamber, not in ink, but in pain. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? She had gained the spotlight and lost herself in its glare, and now she sat, trapped in an eternal selfie where no one was watching, no one was liking, no one was there, only the haunting reflections of who she once pretended to be. Her torment wasn't fire. It was illusion, a prison of her own making. And in hell, illusions don't fade. They taunt you forever. Next, I stepped into what looked like a grand library, but it wasn't the comforting kind. This place was vast, cold, and humming with a dark silence. Endless shelves rose into the shadows above, crammed with dusty case files, leather-bound volumes, and documents so old they seemed to whisper when the air moved. The wooden floor beneath me creaked like it was carrying the weight of centuries of judgment. And there, at the center of it all, sat a man. He wore a judge's robe, tattered now, stained with ink, guilt, and time. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and he trembled as if caught in a storm no one else could feel. His gavel was gone. In its place, rusted chains wrapped around his wrists and ankles, clinking with every breath he took. I knew that look. He had once been someone important, respected, feared. He was used to being the final word. But in hell, his word meant nothing. Around him, the shelves began to shudder. Files flew open on their own. Each one bled with memories, not of crimes, but of hearts he had crushed with his cold, relentless standards. People he condemned not in courtrooms, but in kitchens, in pews, in living rooms. He had judged his wife's insecurities, his children's failures, his neighbor's imperfections. He measured others by perfection, but excused his own bitterness. He wore his morality like armor, quoting rules, demanding order. But beneath the robe, his heart had long turned to stone. Mercy? That was weakness to him. Grace? Reserved only for those who met his impossible expectations. Now, every unopened case he ignored in life unfolded before him, glowing with a chance he never gave. Forgiveness. He watched, wept, as moments replayed where he could have embraced someone, offered healing, spoken love. Instead, he delivered verdicts. And now, the only voice he heard was his own, echoing forever. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. Matthew 7 verse 2. And then a shift. The air thickened with a strange scent. Not sulfur. Something worse. A mix of burning plastic, melted perfume, and scorched metal. I followed it deeper until I saw the walls begin to shimmer. Not with light, but with gold. Mountains of it. Coins. Jewelry. Chains. Credit cards fused with diamonds. Crushed piles of luxury watches, wallets, phones. The air buzzed with static, like greed itself had become electricity. And beneath it all, a man, his body half buried, twisted and gasping, as if drowning not in water but in wealth. His hands clutched a golden Rolex with broken glass, refusing to let go. His eyes, bloodshot and desperate, scanned the room like a cornered animal. His mouth opened to scream, but only ash came out. Not words, not breath, just the remains of everything he tried to feed his soul with. He had lived like a god on earth. Private jets, mega mansions, his name on buildings. He bought anything and anyone his heart desired. But that heart, it was a black hole of appetite, always wanting, never full. He thought peace came from possessions, that money could drown out emptiness, that status could buy purpose. But down here, his riches were no longer treasures. They were chains. Ecclesiastes 5 verse 10 whispered like smoke in the air. Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. He didn't die from lack. He died from excess. And the most terrifying part? He still didn't want to let go. Even in hell, with lungs full of gold dust and hands bleeding from gripping what had killed him. He reached for more. He was buried alive in everything he thought would save him. And yet, he still believed the lie that had damned him. One more thing will fix it. But in hell, there's no more. Only the weight of what you worshipped. Forever. That's when I saw the last figure in this part of my journey. And this one broke me. It was a man behind a pulpit. Or at least, that's what it used to be. Now, it looked more like a platform of thorns. His Bible was there, open, but every verse he had ever spoken was now alive. Sharp, cutting. His mouth moved silently. His face frozen in a grimace. He was a pastor. He had preached fire, holiness, truth. But behind closed doors, his life was a lie. He cheated, stole, manipulated. He used the pulpit as a mask. And now, every sermon he had ever given played on repeat, each word piercing him like a dagger, not because the message was false, but because he never lived it. The truth he preached had become the torment he couldn't escape. His hypocrisy echoed louder than his voice ever did in life. That's when it hit me. Hell isn't just fire and demons. It's clarity. It's the unfiltered reality of every choice we made and every opportunity we ignored. It's not just punishment. It's the unveiling of truth. The truth we ran from, denied, and covered up with excuses, distractions, and pride. And I know these stories might sound distant, dramatic, maybe even too much to believe. But if you're here, and this is reaching something inside you, you're not here by accident. There's a reason you're listening to this. A reason you're being confronted with these stories, with this reality. Because if hell is real, then so is the chance to avoid it. So before we go any deeper, let me ask you one thing. Does this make sense to you? If it does, comment below. That makes sense to me. And if you're still here with me, thank you. I know this was an easy journey, not to listen to, and certainly not to imagine. But if it stirred something in you, if it made you reflect, even for a second, then this space we're building is already doing what it was meant to do. If this message spoke to you, leave a comment saying, "This message was for me." That way, I know you're walking this road with me, all the way to the end. And if this kind of content helps you, inspires you, or just makes you stop and think, go ahead and subscribe. It's how we keep this message alive. How we bring more people into these conversations that matter. Drop a like too. If you feel like this video made a difference, that little click tells YouTube the story meant something to you. And hey, there's a video right next door that deepens everything we just talked about. Click on it and keep walking with me.